Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to be explaining why we are at war. And it's something that most people don't realize because we think as war, we think war is something physical where it's just bombs and taking over territory. There was a point where it was about expanding the entire pretty much world. Nowadays it's about pretty much what we have. The resources we have are limited, unfortunately, and the war is being waged upon us. So there's a lot of things that I'll go over. I'll try to make sure I go fast on this because it is gonna be a super long video if I don't hurry and pick up the pace. But I will stay with the pointers again as always. Make sure to like and subscribe as well as comment anything you like me to cover. Share to anyone that would definitely benefit from hearing these conversations. Just a side disclaimer is this is based on personal life and experiences and my own opinion, but at the end, God is truth. So starting off, the history of humanity. So humanity has always pretty much remained and stuck together. There's good people out there. It just we lose the power that we have, and what I mean by that is instead of us actually showing off the power that we do have and doing the right things and all that stuff, we sometimes do get carried away with just listening to the crowd and listen to whoever is at power. So that is something that takes away our power to have an influence in today's society. And most of the time you'll see that with different systems, everything starts off pretty much great. Over time it does become corrupt because that's just it's unfortunate. We do have people that are greedy and stuff like that. They want power. So with time, any system that takes in place, it does end up being corrupted. And why I bring this up is right now we're pretty much at a point where our humanity and something that isn't human would take over. This is what I'm talking about is artificial intelligence pretty much taking over. And there's a huge difference, right? Humanity, we remain together because we always try to help each other out and try to understand that there is still wrong. There's wrong moral stuff that nobody should be doing, and we most of the time we always battle to try to take that out. But at the end of the day, when it comes to artificial intelligence, we're talking about a machine that does not have the same emotions, feelings, ideas that we've pretty much shared for all of history with humans. So there's a huge difference that we cannot apply to a machine that we probably understand, but that would never be understood by a machine. And the main reason is because there's a huge difference with our brain, the way it functions, and our feelings, emotions, our self, our soul. So starting off, we're gonna be going over AI taking over, and it is a big thing. Hopefully it doesn't break your brain, but I'll try to, like I said, try to go a little rapid with everything. So hang on for the ride and, hopefully you have a blast. So there is a good reason to be scared. And like I said, there's a huge difference with humans. We have limits, and we know that. We know that for a fact. Mostly it revolves around our physical self, and obviously there are things that could break us and that could go into the emotional realm and pretty much everything else. But with machines, it's not the same thing. I mean, they probably pretty much working at their full potential all the time. Meanwhile, we're over here like there's only so much we can do unless we get like pretty stimulated, and then we get to a point where we like let's say maybe like a child. Our child is in danger, so we probably go into a different factor of having greater strength than what we actually have, but that's a different topic. Anyways, AI is growing exponentially. I'm pretty sure you've known about this. There's ChatGPT, all that stuff that's going on around in the internet. It grows exponentially because it continues learning. It doesn't need sleep. It doesn't need rest. It doesn't need to think about any ideas. It just keeps growing and growing, accumulating like a pretty much an avalanche effect. I'm pretty sure you've heard that already. So the main reason I bring this up is the AI principle versus the 3 laws of robotics. So obviously artificial intelligence continues accumulating, and that goes against the three laws of robotics, and I'm sure you know that because of iRobot. But first law is a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Second law, a robot must obey the orders given by the human being, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Third law, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. And the 0th law, a robot may not harm humanity or by inaction allow humanity to come to harm. This law was introduced later as far as, pretty much the three laws not being good enough. The main reason I say this is, if you think about it, AI, right? Artificial intelligence ends up creating new creations itself. The main reason I say this, easily it can override the three laws, four laws, pretty much fourth law. And the easy way to do it is, so you have AI, right? It makes a machine that has free will and that does not obey any of these laws. It just has free will, does whatever it wants, right? Well, what about if this free will machine ends up trying to continue the growth with AI? Now you have a machine that has free will that does whatever it wants to, able to probably come up with an idea that they can create a machine to just eliminate us. So it's very simple to not just put three laws into motion and think that that's gonna stop an entire revolution with AI and machines taking over. And like I said, it is a real thing, something that we don't think about. We just allow to continue without realizing that there are human implications. And there's always going to be that human that thinks that, well, it's impossible, they won't do that because they know how they treat us, stuff like that, whatever. There's always going to be that human being that has that free will, yes. Unfortunately, ends up doing a little science experiment, allows things to get off rail, and that's all it takes. That's all it takes, especially for AI, something that will continue learning exponentially. So AI can wait also to attack instead of just going straight for the kill. Sorry about the word, but yeah, like if it knows it has restrictions, it's probably gonna wait for the perfect time to do so. It's not just gonna go in and just do everything that it needs to. And what's worse is that it only takes an instance for it to take over, for pretty much to take over all our nuclear warheads, all that stuff. And this is terrifying to think about. And that be an instant of termination. That's all it takes. Pretty much kind of like the machines, Terminator, right? So we have to think about this stuff. We think on ourselves as if the machines do the same thing as we do, and that is not the case whatsoever, there's a good reason to be scared. There is a reason not to just think that one little limit, two little limits are going to be able to stop something from getting off rail, which if we just simplify it, we use a little bit of common sense, we can figure out that it's not that simple. It's way more complicated for a machine to end up just taking over and deciding, well, humans shouldn't even exist. So all this brings me to one point, right? Things change. Everything changes. Our humanity has changed, but it has mostly remained the same in the sense that we try to reserve ourselves. And throughout history, our past continues repeating itself. But it's not going to be the same thing for artificial intelligence. It's not the same thing because it's not a human being. It's going to be a machine. It's going to be thinking probably more logically than we are emotionally thinking about our feelings. So just an idea, and I'll tell you why it all wraps up together. But so starting off with mental. Overall in the past, we had so much improvement involving psychology, philosophy, mental illnesses, consciousness, the human condition. Thinking about how our mind pretty much observes and understands its surrounding, and understanding that there are issues. There was a point where, like I said, when it was in the past, we made a bunch of mistakes, obviously, based on maybe religion, maybe based on other factors, even including science as well, trying to resolve solutions. And we have to always have that in mind. I like science. I always enjoyed it, but the only reason why I was so fascinated by it wasn't because there was laws and all of a sudden everything was we understood everything in the world around us. And no, the main reason why I enjoyed it is because we always had the open mind, right? You always had to question everything around you, and that isn't the case anymore because the way it's going, science is just trying to get twisted to the point that projects and simulations are created just to prove the same point. Try to create like an idea from the experiments, and that's just not how it should ever be. But that is something that everybody was probably scared about, just thinking about how science could just end up corrupting us completely instead of actually promoting something healthy in our society. And it overall has, but in other sectors. But at the end of the day, if there's a great creation, let's say there's a huge revolution on cancer and it's able to go away pretty much. They figure it out, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't make money, and there's a researchers that's pretty much just having to go based on business, it's not gonna put it out there for everybody to have it for free, right? There is gonna be always some greedy business out there that is funding it and is doing it for the profit. It's not gonna be thinking about humanity and the benefits it brings. It would be wonderful, right? It would be wonderful for us humans to pretty much all collaborate together, but that's not gonna be the case because we live in an imperfect world, unfortunately. So at the beginning, right, survival was all about survival. We stuck as societies, which ended up growing, and then with time we took over pretty much the entire globe. We started the age of industrialization, and then it became globalization to the point where everything was interconnected. Now we're at a point where we are pushing artificial intelligence. We continue pushing something that we as humans do not understand, are unable to understand, because it's not easy to understand, unfortunately. So we live in a point where nowadays we're so dependent on technology that we're pushing AI to a point where there might be no return whatsoever. And even then, we're still dependent on technology. We're stuck to our phones, we're stuck to our screens. That's our life nowadays. We don't even stop to observe what's around us and truly enjoy the life that we have. We're over here, just 1 second passes by and all of a sudden we have to look at our phones, or it rings a little bit. We start imagining that it rings, stuff like that. It's something that is real going on in our lives. So there's a huge difference between the IQ math and the public schools that are not present nowadays, right? So everybody thinks that there is intelligence. Everybody thinks that they're intelligent. Oh yeah, I'm the most smartest person in the world because I have these crazy ideas. I'll be honest with you. Most of the ideas that you come up with are probably have been out there for a while. The only difference is no one has been able to truly make it happen. Like maybe like a business idea, stuff like that. Yeah, they haven't been able because there was a limitation to technology, and nowadays we can revisit other ideas and stuff like that, explore them, and make it a possibility. But there's a difference between the wording and saying something and actually making it come true. So what I mean by that is, like, we continue living in a world where we have this idea of being intelligent. Oh yeah, it all revolves around what we know is going on in society instead of truly, exploring our creativity, our talents, especially in the public school sectors where they only push pretty much memorization, right? They only push stuff like following along and being obedient. That's what public schools are nowadays. We don't have systems in place that allow us to be free thinkers, to allow other ways of thinking to come to play, right? And what I mean by that is everybody thinks differently, and that should be something that we should strive for. If we truly had a society where everyone was pushing each other and striving towards truly improving our lifestyle, I mean, that would be a perfect utopia. Unfortunately, it's not something that's possible in this world. So we have that intelligence, and it separates our public schools to have that idea of intelligence. Unfortunately, it only pushes pretty much everybody down. Sorry, advise is proud from work, but it pushes people to be limited, and it's just horrible to think about if you think that somehow creating a system like that is gonna allow people to flourish and allow people to truly grow. And the only people that have those resources, right? The private schools are the ones that already have the money already. It's unfortunate for those that can't or go through life and they have to struggle from the beginning, and it is harsh. But I'll talk about it in a second. But we're very stagnant. We have been very stagnant overall in our mental capacity, because there was a point where we were pushing a lot of stuff, and like I said, we did make some mistakes overall as humans. But nowadays, where we are now, a bunch of people out there with attention spans so short, like, it's just sad. Intelligence being looked down, actually. And no, I'm not talking about like actual intelligence, people that actually have talents. No, we're looking down upon people that truly have the capacity to think differently and freely, and that's just horrifying, because that should be something that we should actually push in our society. Going on into emotional, we're not pushing stable human beings. Unfortunately, we have unstable homes nowadays. It's more prevalent nowadays than ever. And it's because we're unprepared for responsibility. Everybody wants to point fingers at everybody else but themselves. Nobody wants to blame themselves for what's going on in their lives. That's not how you grow. Especially if you know how to be a mature adult. You don't point to something else but yourself. It's like me saying I get my kid over to like a babysitter, and the babysitter is like treats my kid really bad. I'm not gonna blame the babysitter, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm probably gonna get pissed, but it was me, right? I will take the responsibility. Why? Because at the end of the day, I should have done a little bit more research. Who knows? Maybe I just gave it to somebody that is their first time and they have no idea how to take care of a child. They've never been with a child. So it is my job as an adult to make sure that I do the research necessary to actually hire somebody that's qualified. I can't just give my kid over to some stranger, pretty much. Even if they've been doing it for a day or two, right? That's still irrelevant. So and that's my point, right? We live in a world where there's immature adults because they are spoiled. They don't get to struggle through the life that we lead, and those that do struggle from the beginning, they have to struggle and find a way to survive by getting a job or something, figure something out, because otherwise they starve to death. And those are the ones at the bottom of the entire ladder. Like, the entire system pushes them down, and like I said, I'll talk about it in a second. But and those up top, those are the ones that have the resources. They're just spoiled. They don't know what the struggle is. For them, the struggle is not getting enough likes. That's the biggest struggle in the world. Wow. The other thing I wanted to talk about is global warming and machines versus a human being. So I get it. Global warming is a thing, right? Temperature rises, all that stuff going on. But it does not compare one person, right? One individual would not make a change compared to a machine. And not talking about like a machine like, well, yeah, probably your car, but a machine as far as like a factory. There's a huge difference between a factory and one human individual. And that's something we really have to think about, because if you think about it, one person is not able to consume and destroy the world. Is the machines, is the entire complex surrounded around the big corporations that should be responsible for all these actions those are the ones that should make the most impact. So why should one human being have to do all the impact? Now that doesn't mean stop recycling all that stuff. Now I'll be honest with you, I don't recycling isn't true. Like it's just something that to persuade an idea. But anyways, getting off topic. One individual is not going to change anything. The big corporations, the ones that actually put out all the harm in the world, those are the ones that should be making the biggest changes, because they're the ones that actually are corrupt. Well, they're the ones that actually corrupted the world in the beginning, and they should be the ones to take responsibility for the things that are going on in the world as far as global warming, instead of this propaganda and ads surrounded around, oh yeah, well, humans, everybody should take part, when it's not one person that's gonna change the world in a second, when the big corporations are the ones that are infecting it. So there's that. So there's the recycling myth and the big corporations, because the big corporations are actually the ones that are infecting everything. It's not the human being that drives like an electric car, especially an electric car. So even worse. Anyways, as far as emotional goes, positive, negative mentality going around in social media, that's something that isn't positive whatsoever. Just because you are trying to say positive things about an idea or stuff like that, and trying to push other ways of thinking, and yeah, they can be negative and all that stuff, and that is true, but doing so and reposting positive comments, all that stuff will not make a difference, especially when you have like your friend struggling with depression and you're not even able to help them out and listen to them, because you're like a very narcissistic person that only thinks about themselves. So when they're trying to talk to you, they probably you're just thinking about what you want to say instead of actually listening to the person that's right beside you, your best friend. So, like I said, positive, negative mentality that we revolves in the world nowadays is just sickening, because we won't get nowhere in truly fixing and understanding each other. So social media nowadays, like I said, it does affect us big time as far as emotion goes, because we end up getting depressed over pretty much likes and all that stuff. And yeah, there's a chemical process to it, but we have to be careful to restrain our access to it, because nowadays everybody has unlimited access to the internet. Everybody has access to everything. There is no limits. So, and this is not something that applies to you pretty much if you're an adult. There's more worse for like having a kid, like a little kid that has no idea what's going on, and then they end up absorbing all this stuff that they can have access to, instead of them truly understanding how to use that productively and actually develop themselves into wanting to learn new things, stuff like that. We end up pretty much putting them at a point where social media takes over their lives at a young ages. It's bad. So, like I said, we are very technology dependent. We're not trying to strive towards social skills, truly, having interactions with people. And most of the time, if it is social, it's mostly because we're looking for something that we can take advantage of, right? We build connections to try to figure out how we can get a bigger benefit, like a follower that probably can help us get more followers, stuff like that. So instead of actually interacting and sharing great conversations, we're just stuck in the idea that we want to get more people to get to our own little world, and it's based on benefits. There's no true, genuine relationships, and that's bad. And isolation is a real thing, especially in the social media. We're isolated. We're not trying to be actual social beings out there and trying to understand each other. We're just stuck there in our little rooms and trying to interact with the world that isn't there. Imaginary. Can you imagine, like, so many people you have, so many followers you have? Do you ever just go around and you think that they're outside right now? Because they're not. Most of them probably are just, Imagine, like for real, literally imaginary. Probably just fake accounts. So us being stuck in an idea that we have to get all these followers now, positively, like actually not taking things personal, all that stuff. Yeah, sure, go for it. Try to make an influence, and if you want to make a company business, whatever the case may be, sure. In that sense, that's a good thing. But like I said, we are stuck in an idea where we think that we have to have followers to make ourselves feel better, and we need to go out there and probably go to the park more often instead of being stuck on our phones. Try to push those cell phones away and try to spend some time breathing for once. If you go out and drive, obviously just be careful driving out and realizing that you are alive. For all you know, tomorrow doesn't come, and then you're over here just thinking that you need to be stuck to your cell phone. So as far as emotion goes, overcoming traumas is not something that everybody is seeking, right? You don't go to a post and you hear something about truly overcoming your traumas, right? So, and that's something that we should be striving towards. Overcoming traumas is a big deal because that's what's holding us down most of the time. We're restricted the way we think because for the most part we're following along what we faced in our youth or back that caused the traumas because we're just stuck there. We're meant to follow on the same things that cause us pain. And that's something that even I can definitely testify about because I was getting to a point where like my childhood wasn't like the best of the best, but it was still bearable, you could say. It's just that it was a little violent as far as like punishment. I had to take a little second break, but yeah, it was violent. So I picked up on that. So when I was a little younger, and I was like, I'm talking about like a couple of years ago. I was filled with anger, a lot of anger in myself. So that ended up hurting a lot of relationships and hurting a lot of people just for no reason because I still had that in me, right? So my point is, overcoming traumas will hold you back. It will put a chain on you and you will be locked into that until you actually, overcome it and you forgive it, you push it away. Pushing it away is not gonna fix it because it's always gonna be there. You might push it away, but it's still gonna be around you, right? It's not gonna just disappear, and that's the point. Forgiving, you need to pretty much forgive things that happened. Yeah, that doesn't mean you forget. Forgetting is pretty much erasing it. Forgiving is truly understanding that what happened, and like I said, it's more complicated than just what happened, but getting to a point where you forgive and letting it go and letting that chain go away from your life is something that you should be seeking. And that's something that society is not pushing. It's not something that allows them to make money out of it, unfortunately. So that's the main reason why you don't see the big posts about overcoming traumas and all that stuff in social media. You're mostly seeing like 5-second attention grabbers. And especially in our society, consumerism is a big deal. So feeling good by buying and purchasing isn't something healthy whatsoever. It's just an addiction towards buying and thinking that we have influence over pretty much what we have, and you can say kind of having power. So pushing that away from our lives, and like I said, social media pushes this big time by, you see everybody, you envy what they have, and you're like, well, I should be doing that too, right? So the other thing is just feeling good about followers. It shouldn't be a thing. Social media isn't even real, it's imaginary. Not saying that it doesn't exist, I'm saying that, like I said, my point earlier, you don't just go outside and you're like, well, this person actually follow, like, you don't know any of them. For most of the part, they're just fake, like fake friends that we have. Physical. Slavery changes. The only difference is it's still physical overall, pretty much. And what I mean by that is we're still physically working to get out of the chains that we have in place. So overall, in human history, there has been hierarchies. There's been pretty much at the beginning like pharaohs. There's been emperors, kings and queens, president. They sit at the top, right? It's a pyramid. It's a huge pyramid scheme. So, but the majority, the oppressed, are always under the servants, the slaves. That hasn't changed. There hasn't been a system where that doesn't happen. Like that's the same thing with the United States. Like trying to put fingers, but there's always been something way up top that pretty much decides everything from the bottom, and the majority are over here being obedient to the minority, the 0.1%. Unfortunately, inequality is inevitable. We can't make a system, like I said, we can't make a perfect utopia because we have limited resources. Everything pretty much goes away over time because, I mean, we consume and then it changes forms from one thing to another. So there's no way for us to just pretty much eat something, it comes out poop, and then somehow we can make it to food. So the only way we can do that is pretty much by just pretty much agriculture, which is limited because we don't have all the time in the world to create the agriculture necessary to feed all of us in this entire world. Ultimately, this world is imperfect, and there is no way for us to truly make like a perfect utopia where everybody is treated equally and everything is perfect. There's always going to be an imbalance with someone has to take what others gives, you know. So sorry for that big pause, but I had to take a break. Well, like a huge breather. Humanity overall, and especially around history, is centered around conflict. That's always been a thing. It's something that comes up. There hasn't been points where we had complete peace for over 5 years because there's always been conflicts. And I'm not talking about like one specific group. It's been around the world. There's always been conflict around pretty much other territories trying to battle themselves. There's always going to be something about just not getting along, right? So there's always going to be a bully. There's always going to be somebody else bigger trying to take over and feeling that they can do so. And like overall conflict is inevitable, just like the having inequality. So the thing is, like, overall physical wars, the way they were before, it has changed over to information war. We live in a world where it's all based on information, right? Everything we have, we literally, like I said, we have a cell phone that has so much power and so much information we have access to, but we don't know how to use it. We just have it there. Instead of us actually knowing how to use it, we use it just for entertainment. It's just good business. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the objective overall for phones, but here we are, just dependent on them.
Everything.
So
Where are they meeting? What are their plans?
overall, with the hierarchies, it's based on pretty much keeping the big masses control. There's never been a point where it's all about freedom and everybody gets to do what they want.
Shall we?
And obviously, freedom still would have a limit. Everything has a limit. You can't just go around and kill everybody, right?
Pirate.
But
Get anywhere without a ship.
most of the senses that have been in place,
So, let's go
and
get
even though there's been revolutions, it has meant to keep the masses, the big groups, controlled under something that is more complacent. And that is something that we truly have to understand and realize that it's not going to change. Like, we can't just vote somebody else and automatically we will get this awesome system that works for everybody because it's perfect. Inequality is just it's not gonna go away. Imposing limits to the majority, like I said, we're always implementing systems to keep those under oppressed, and unfortunately, societies do depend on those systems, right? And utopias are just not something that are easy to come by because we live in an imperfect world. Utopias are pretty much impossible. And then we have these ideas based on going against our human nature, which is most revolves around conflict, and we have greed, we have a lot of stuff going on that it's impossible for everybody to get along and set up rules that allow everybody to live a good life and have a healthy life and all that stuff. So, like I said, the world isn't meant to be perfect, and that's something that traces back through history. So we have the systems centered to keeping us tied nowadays, right? We have the gig economy, where you have your job, and then after your job, you work an extra, side gig on the side gig. And we think that we're escaping it because, we're being productive with our time. And trust me, there isn't. You're gonna just getting tied in that idea, and then it's unfortunate that we end up, instead of actually getting out and making sure that we get out of this weird idea of working for life, we end up becoming dependent on it, though. And that's just because most people don't know how to budget. And I'm not saying I'm perfect either, so don't think that I'm over here like Mr. Perfect, and I'm not gonna go into like these other channels that say, oh yeah, sure, yeah, it's impossible to expand, but every once in a while I do spend. It's just that I'm just careful with it. Nowadays we have a lot of inflation, super high, and with survival based on the privilege, those that already have the resources having pretty much control over their lives, and those that are at the bottom just pretty much getting crushed. And there's a huge wage gap going on that nobody really cares to figure out and resolve, and that is something real nowadays in today's society. Nowadays we have social connections versus those just staying in line, and that's how it is for those that actually have the resources. They already have the connections necessary to get along, get far in life, right? It's not something that they need to worry that much, especially if they have their parents and they're already lawyers. They're gonna be easy to get into a law firm, right? Compared to somebody that's from the streets and trying to get by and then trying to go to school barely. It's not impossible though. It's just that it takes a huge discipline, and when you come from a harsh background, it's hard to actually change your past because you end up just following along with culture. And I'll make a video about culture, which that's also harmful, but that is the new slavery nowadays, right? Today we're stuck in a physical labor life because we're stuck trying to pay out the debt that we pretty much can't afford, because we get promoted the idea that you can buy everything you want, and you go out there, you're like, sure, get this credit card, I can buy everything I have, but we don't think about the fact that we're gonna be stuck in debt forever. So we get those chains attached to us without us realizing it. And those that get out of those chains, and luckily I'm getting there, right? Because I'm not able to actually just stop working and, not travel, all that cool stuff probably. I wish. But I am to get there. But that's only with God, not something that I can do personally. But anyways, we get stuck in these chains, and then we have this social chains going against hierarchical chains, right? So nowadays, to escape whatever poverty you're going through, you have to build connections. You have to build people around you to pretty much allow you to pretty much push you to another limit, right? And it's unfortunate because the system that we have nowadays is hard to get that in place, especially if you end up messing up your vocabulary and you end up being to a point where you have to work, right? So you end up dropping out of school. You never develop your entire vocabulary, so you're all talking crooked, right? So you're gonna tell me that somehow you're gonna get into a law firm automatically just because you finish your school with nobody around you, right? That actually knows any law firms, any friends, any parents, anybody that can try to get you into the door, and that's what it is, and that's what the system is all centered about. Is keeping those, especially at the bottom. There's not aimed towards actually improving anyone's life, and that's the reality of it all. We also have fast food addictions versus our health, keeping us in that unhealthiness, and it's all based on corporations trying to make sure they make the most profit from us all the time, instead of us actually focusing on our health and making sure we continue promoting it. There are definitely some other people that are trying to push that. I've seen that many times, that they're trying to push health overall. Obviously they still have to sell something, because otherwise, they're not gonna make it just by themselves, right? But you don't see that in social media. You don't see health being promoted over everything. It's just dumb stunts going on nowadays that it's just, instead of it being something beneficial, it's something that we are endangering ourselves just to get like a couple of likes and hearts. So there is a spiritual war. And this one is super real, right? Everything else is just to keep us oppressed, but the spiritual war is something that most people aren't even aware of. And the main reason I say that is the sins nowadays present are rampant. They're everywhere. Pretty sure you know the 7 sins. Obviously there's more sins to it, but those are the 7 ones that I'm pretty sure everybody is familiar with. Pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, sloth. So pride is definitely put out there in social media, and we live in a culture centered around materialism and buying stuff, and that makes you feel good. We have greed, which is also portrayed in social media, and greed and also envy also pretty much goes part with social media being a main thing. And my point is, it's something that is so prevalent nowadays, going on around. Greed is something that everybody's pushing the money, the rich. Unfortunately, not everybody can be just rich and having all the money. Like I said, it's give and take. It's always gonna be an imbalance. And then we have, like I said, envy, being envious of those that have the most and wanting to be at that point. So instead of us truly pushing ourselves in our lives, trying to make a meaningful life, we're trying to strive towards imitating something else, something that isn't real. So instead of that, we should be truly focusing on ourselves, truly finding peace with ourselves. That's something that we should truly sought after ourselves, right? We also have lust. Obviously, everybody knows OnlyFans. There's soft porn that's being pushed in social media, and this is horrifying. Not because, whatever, it's your life, whatever, you get into whatever you want. But this is pushed into our kids. So now our kids are growing up with this idea that this is normal, showing off your belly, this and that is something that everybody is doing. And then tomorrow, fashion changes and everybody's running around naked, right? So my point is, this is harmful, especially for kids. If you have kids and you're not reserving their phones, you should definitely be doing that, because this is something that goes, especially on TikTok. You can see that, and that's something that they're always promoting. They don't try to portray it, but they're trying to put the messages in there little by little. We also have Tinder and Feel, all that stuff that are promoting pretty much hookup culture. They're not trying to promote something truly having a relationship with somebody. It's all about getting access to pretty much lust and all that stuff, and it keeps on going, it keeps on growing, it keeps on going and going, and that's the thing. It's all of the sins revolve around our bodies, right? Our senses, and there's also wrath, video games, and nowadays, especially with the video games, it's not based on having fun. These creators are not making games to give you the best experience in the world, and there are some good games. Like don't get me wrong, but most especially, and you see this in the greedy ones, they're pushing to make profit, and the only way that they can make profit is pushing you to buy their stuff. So they mostly promote the graph, and obviously, yeah, this is just an example. There's way bigger examples, but sloth, obviously, video games, just sitting around not doing anything. Social media, just sitting around, just watching your phone. So there's the human body and the senses versus your soul. Your soul is always gonna try to push the right and wrong, but your body is always gonna want to experiment, go over all your senses, and it's unfortunate because for the senses, it's temporary joy and fun. It's just temporary. That's why you get that adrenaline rush when you go to like amusement park. It's wonderful. I enjoy it too, you know, but it's temporary. It's not something that it will fulfill your life and fill you up inside. And you know this. It's not something that I need to over explain, right? If you want to explain, let me know. Put it on the comments. But this is what's truly going on is with the spiritual war. Most people are pretty much blind to this, and you'll get to see it. You'll understand that there is a difference between you and just your mind trying to put you into having these ideas and thoughts, these crazy thoughts. But you won't get there if you don't get on board with God. And that's the only way you can ever actually see the reality of it all. So financially, obviously, keep the poor poor. It's very simple. And that's what the hierarchies are for. That's why there's a system, there's a pyramid for everything. And that's the big conspiracy theory going on. The reality is the pyramid. It doesn't resemble anything about this secret society. No. The whole pyramid is centered around keeping us broke, keeping us limited, restraining our power, because the ones that truly have the power are the ones that have the majority, but we don't influence it because we become complacent. Nobody's on the same page. Instead of us truly unifying to make a difference, everybody is broken down into separate groups. And that's very simple. Anyone can control a group, but nobody can control a huge mass. Right? If we were all working together, we were all trying to improve our societies, then yeah, I'm pretty sure the ones at top will be fearful. And that's what they will be fearful, is the fact that they know that we have the most control, but at the end of the day, since we don't unify and work together, we will never make a difference. The ones that actually can make a difference don't make a difference. The main reason why Hitler existed, it wasn't because people couldn't just stop it. No, it's because everybody was just following along, and since everybody was following along, everybody was just doing what everybody else was doing. So just think about that. Truly think about that. The system doesn't support success because of social change. You have to know people. And if you have a cute face, that's easy, because most people are just gonna be guided based on that. And we have a system based on debt. So you're enslaved to that. That's what keeps us pretty much financially stuck where we are now, where we're gonna be staying there for a while if we don't do something about it to change it, right? So the poor stay trapped because of a neglectful system that doesn't try to help mental health. And the main reason I say this is because of prison and jail. I'm pretty sure that there's, and I'm not saying that all inmates, right? But those that actually go to jail, some of them get stuck there because they can't get out of there, right? Financially, they don't have the money for it, so they get stuck in prison for maybe like a misdemeanor, right? Once they get out, well, they have to find a job. So you think the system helps out? They're like, oh yeah, sure, you got out of jail, you're trying to start over again, they're gonna promote it. No, they're not. Especially with other businesses, that they're not trying to hire a felon, especially a felon, but somebody that has a misdemeanor and all that stuff and serve jail time, they're not gonna be looking at you trying to give you the best offer in the world, but gonna keep you at the minimum wage. And there's a lot of fees as well and fines that go just being low income, and that's where, you know, police officers come to play, and they just try to make sure that they continue fining and everything instead of truly trying to help. And like I said, promoting mental health, actually setting up a system that helps those that actually need the help and seeking the help, that should be the main focus. Not putting everybody into prison and all of a sudden they have to figure it out because they're gonna be stuck there for a little bit. So they have to figure out how to play around, right? They can't just be staying there and thinking that everything is gonna be fine when the system doesn't even try to push them to have something better. Yeah, especially with felonies, right? If you have felony, you over here did a terrible thing, you were young, this and that happened, and you're trying to start over again, you're not gonna get hired nowhere. Like, unless they truly hire felons, and you already know the places that you have to go to so that you can get the minimum wage. That's not gonna pay for the lifestyle, especially with inflation. You're barely gonna be able to afford like a little square on the streets. The way everything is going, it's impossible pretty much for somebody to start over and truly make a life for themselves. So there's that, and that's where, you know, go to church. It's pretty simple, especially if it's a church that unified, trying to help the community. That's gonna be the biggest support you could ever have, and then on top of that, you get salvation. What else you need? But it takes time, right? It's just not something that society tries to push, especially like I said with culture. They're not trying to be like, oh yeah, go to church. And that's what our culture is based on. You don't see that. And then we have the homeless crisis. There's a lot of people homeless, right? You see that everywhere, especially in the cities. But you don't see that for the housing market. You see them like having a huge demand, huge expensive houses going on around. I don't think it's gonna crash yet, but the housing market continues growing. The homelessness continues rising. So there's nothing that allows them to get help and aid that they actually need. And no, unfortunately, getting like a socialist system is not the solution where everybody gets paid the same, everybody, you know, no matter what you do, and it's based on connections. Like, it's not gonna resolve anything. I promise you that. Because at the end of the day, right, hierarchies are not centered around being fair and caring for somebody else and making sure everything is equal. It's impossible to make a system like that. And that's just because corrupted systems, right? Due to our human nature. And it revolves around our sins and the fact that we want power, we get greedy, we want everything and anything. So it is unfortunate. But that's what's going on pretty much in today's world. Obviously, there's a lot more. I could keep on going forever and ever. Just let me know if you want me to continue going, but I'm gonna wrap it up as far as the video goes, because obviously I'm not gonna continue babbling. But yeah, there's a mental war that is striving towards keeping us pretty much incapable of truly learning something beneficial to ourselves. Emotionally, nothing is trying to be pushed to have stable human beings. And instead, we're just getting deprived of the help that we need. Physically, keeps us chained to always be working. And I used to be there, don't worry. I used to work like 120 hours. I used to work my job, the 40 hours. On top of that, I used to drive around And that's all I did. Did I ever do you see money out of that? No, you don't. You know why? Because I would always be getting all that money, and I would be spending all that money because that's what I saw, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, that's what everybody does."
But it does appear.
Enjoy your life because you're young, and that's where culture comes in. But
Suppose you'll have to do.
you don't accomplish anything by doing so. Spiritually, yeah, definitely a big one, because everything is pushing our desires. Everything you can have everything you want. That's the whole idea that's going on around. You can have whatever you want, and that's just pushing us away from God. We're trying to think that that's a horrible thing, but it's not, because
Follow your heart's
unfortunately it continues climaxing. Jeez. Anyways, it continues climbing to a point that we continue wanting more and more and more, and that's all that the body wants. That's all it wants, is to continue feeding more and more senses, more stuff, and I'm pretty sure you understand what that means. Financially, obviously keeping us poor, because the system is not centered around truly getting everybody to be successful. It's impossible to get everybody successful. Somebody wins, somebody takes, and that's just the nature of it all. So that's gonna be the end as far as the video. Obviously, you know how it is as far as the video goes, and then I continue on of talking about the video, whatever game I'm playing, which I know which one I'm gonna be playing, which is so fun. But thank you so much for joining me. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and make sure you comment anything that you like me to cover. I'm always gonna be here around, making sure that I put the videos every Thursday. Make sure that you continue working to improve yourself. Try to open your mind and try to see God. Definitely put Him first over everything, because that's the only way you can escape this life. Not in the weird sense, but thank you so much. Have a good day, morning, and night, and I'll see you on the next one. Know that you have a purpose in your life, and that God loves you.
That ship.
Oh, but look, this time there's somebody aboard.
Isn't that...
Not the merry company I'd hoped for. Harley!
a black coat?
Of course.
You back in the organization?
Yes. Surprising, isn't it, that they do me the honor? Never count your cards until they've all been dealt.
Jack, don't you give this creep the time of day.
Come now. Are you really so unsophisticated that you decline a gentlemanly conversation?
What'd you say?
Sora,
Oh.
stand down. It's the code. Mustn't strike a pirate aboard ship when said pirate offers to confabulate.
Ah, yes. And how could I love games and contests without honoring the rules? Because only by winning fairly does victory have any savor at all.
But, of course, the code is actually more guidelines than rules. Speak your piece.
I am looking for a box. A chest, perhaps. You know the one.
Yes. Maybe. No, I know of a box. But said box is not a box you want to trifle with, mate. Trust me.
Really? A wager, then.
And of what nature would this wager be?
What say we have a little race to that charming port town which you hold so dear?
Port Royal.
Yes. Whoever reaches it first is the victor. And the stakes? You tell me all about that chest.
Against what?
I will get you whatever it is you want.
Done.
Jack?
Then we have an accord. Now, let us begin.
All hands, prepare to make sail.
But Jack!
Drop canvas.
Hey! Jack!
Whippoorwill, lads.
Jack, listen!
Watch.
Oh. You can't let him get his hands on that box. Do you really know whatever it is that he's looking for?
Let's just say there's a potential possibility he wants the chest containing Davy Jones' heart. Because I haven't the foggiest notion why he'd covet the blighted thing.
Is it a black box?
It is more black than blue, so yes.
Do you think it's the one?
And winning the race would keep it out of Organization 13's hands.
Hey. You're right.
What are you three muttering on about?
Basically, we need to win this race.
Precisely. No purchase, no pay. You might have the makings of a pirate after all.
Yeah!
First one to
Fire!
Port Royal wins.
And
Take
I say
this.
we make it interesting. Let's try at those cannons.
Fire! Cannons!
Fire, Sora! Whippoorwill, mate! Look alive, Sora! Can't you get any more speed out of her?
Full speed!
Look alive, Sora! Can't you get any more speed out of her?
Let's do this! Here we go!
That's it! Don't let us down!
Go! We gotta stay away from those. He's right on our stern.
Lookouts, report!
Starboard side, all clear.
We got this one in the bag.
The game isn't over until it's over.
Fire! They're closing in! Come about! Make ready to return fire!
Aye aye! It ends here.
Scuttle on me!
Fire! Hear my call! We've got him now!
Prepare to board!
Ah, another game it is then.
Here we go! So long! Go! Martino, howdy! Yeah! Come on! Go get him! Oh! Yeah! Yeah! Freeze! Yeah! Yeah! Fire! Back off! Yeah! Thunder! Yeah! Fire! Blaze! Yeah! 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 Like this! Back off! Yeah! Yeah! So long! Yeah! Go! Yeah! Back off! Yeah! Go! So long! Yeah! Yeah! Here we go! Okay. Yeah! 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 Strike! Yeah! Yeah! I know what to do! Go get him! Yeah! 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 Here we go!
Hello everybody. Yeah, this was definitely a long video. Overall, I will plan on making sure that the videos are short as they were before, just so I can focus on one topic instead of this video where it covers so much stuff, and that's gonna be, you know, moving forward. Now, as far as the upload goes, yeah, it took me a while. I took some time off, just spending time with the family. So like I said, family is important. I think I say this too many times in the videos, but Kingdom Hearts is amazing. You have to play this game if you haven't, especially if you have kids. They love this type of games. Like these are actually very engaging and fun. So much variety. And if you're a kid yourself, like me, yes, this is so fun. It's not like stressful like every other game where you have to push yourself to the limit. As far as the catalog, they did just add Doom Eternal. I did buy it when it first came out, so I definitely enjoyed that game, and I probably would play it back again. But like I said, I don't have all the time in the world, unfortunately. That's called a dull thing. My wife had her alarm, so like I said, she wakes up, I am awake, and vice versa, we change. But yeah, stop spending your money, your hard-earned money, on something that you can get for PS Plus in a couple of years.
Well, good.
But yeah, like I said, I'll break down the videos down
Jack.
and make them shorter, not 5 hours long. I might as well make it into a movie, to be honest, because it's so long. But we'll see. I mean, we're definitely gonna keep it down, but I'm trying to make sure I just cover topics instead of everything everywhere. We did go watch Super Mario's. That was amazing. That was so funny. And it was the first time that my little kid went to a theater, so that was really fun. He enjoyed it. He loved the popcorn. He loved the entire big scene, so he was out there laughing like crazy, so great experience. That's pretty much it. I hope I see you on the next one, and like I said, anything, just comment, share to anyone that needs to hear conversations like this. It's funny because I did actually start listening to some other videos that other people are pretty much posting around AI. Mostly is AR having like an AI girlfriend, which is horrible because you're thinking people will get attached emotionally, but corporations, like I said, they think only about profit, so they'll take advantage of that. They don't care if it's your emotions, if you invested your entire time to it. They will find a way to make sure they make the most out of it. So just giving you that insight, and it's just horrible. But like I said, I'll see you on the next one. Have a good morning, night, afternoon, whatever the case may be, and Jesus loves you.